Hello, everybody. Hope you all are doing good today. Would love to see some hype in the comment section so that I know all of you are here and ready to get started. All right. So before we begin, let me just briefly introduce what Mar challenges are and what are we doing here today. Most of you might have already been here because it's technically our 11th day of our Mar challenges. But if you're coming here for the first time, let me tell you what this is all about. So last month we ran a couple of challenges in the local hack day where you were building alongside MLH coaches, and we had a really good response from all of you. So we decided to take it a notch further and do it again this month. And what we're doing right now is we're running one challenge every day just to see if you all enjoy it, and maybe we could make this a regular thing from now on. Uh, Apart from just having local hack day every month and for 5 days. So before we get started today, there's still a couple of more things that you need to do. I already shot a long message on Discord, but why don't we go there and see what we have to do? So sharing my screen, and here we go. So the first thing that you need to do to get started today is make sure that you have registered and checked in for our MLH March challenges. You can click on the link and make sure that you are checked in. So let me do that with you. So you can just click register and check in, and you will be checked in for the March challenges. Perfect. There you go. Then there are obviously all these wonderful challenges that are taking place every day. So the one that you want to register to is Node.js Starter Pack, because that's what we will be doing today. We will actually try to understand what the starter pack is, and how you can use it to better build apps and projects in hackathons, or when you're building your personal projects, anything of that sort. So we'll try to understand more about it and give you a good introduction into Node.js. So let's come back to Discord and see what we want to do next. The next thing that we want to do is register and check in for this particular session. So you can then again click on this link and go to your browser. I just realized that you can't see my browser screen. So let's assume that you are doing this with me and you clicked on the link and you will reach the Organize MLH page. Again, you can click on register and check in, which will check you in as well as register you for this event today. After that, you are ready and good to go. You're already here in the live stream, and there's nothing more left logistically. All right. So what's next? I'll share the starter pack link with you if you all have not already been through it. And what I really want all of you to do by the end of the stream is, or not by the end of the stream, or whenever you're watching it and you decide to make something using the starter pack, I really want all of you to post it on our dev post gallery. So I'll be posting the link to that dev post just in a minute. It's there on the MLH community Discord channel as well. But let me just copy that and send it over to you folks. All right. We copy the link and let me make it easier for all of you and put it up on the screen. No, this is the wrong link. Sorry, give me just a moment. This is what I'm looking for. Perfect. And there we go. Meanwhile, if you missed any of the links or you're not there on the Discord channel, you can see all of the details right here, everything that you need to know. So it'll be harder to follow the link here. So what I would suggest is just go on the Discord channel and get the links from there. All right. One more thing that you need to do is whenever you build your Node.js projects, we would love to see it. We would love to cheer you on, start your projects, maybe even share it. Is if you post it right here at the MLH Mar Challenges devpost.com link. All right. So I will let that be here, and I will keep the ticker going so that all of you please make sure to check into the event so that we can send you any extra information that we have to send you for today. So without any further ado, let us get started with the starter pack for Node.js. So let me send you all the link so that we are all on the same page. And okay, so this right here is the link for the starter pack. It already has a couple of stuff implemented. So what we will try to do right now is first of all understand what this is about, and then maybe sort of make some changes and implement our very own stuff. So are you all ready for learning and working on Node.js? All right. A bit of a hype before we get started in the comments channel, and we will be good to go. Yes. Oh, wow. Love the energy right now. Okay. So let me share my entire screen with all of you now, so that and we will suddenly enter like a loop. Okay. So first of all, I really hope that all of you have opened up the GitHub link so that we're all on the same page and we can get started properly. Also, okay, let me just share my screen and then we can talk a bit more about this. All right, wow. Okay, so what we have here is this whole Node.js app that can easily be used by all of you to like create your own projects. A couple of things that you need to have before you can get started is Node.js, NPM, and Postgres. I'm hoping that all of you have Node.js and NPM installed. If not, you can start the installation right now and hope to like follow along as soon as possible. All right. Hey Adam, I have not tried the MLH bread recipe yet. My experience with making bread has been so bad right now, but I will give it one more try before I finally give up on baking bread. To anybody who doesn't know the context, actually we made a sorry, oh my god, we made a tweet last hackathon, like last weekend, about how to bake a bread. So follow us on Twitter, and you can see some like really cool stuff happening there. All right. Okay. So if you don't have Node.js or npm installed, don't worry. You can click on these links that are given here in the installation guide and easily like install any of that stuff. All right. So now we will get started with the basic stuff that you need to do to get started, which is cloning this repo. So here I have my challenges, and I'm going to clone a repo here. Perfect. Now let's get into that repo, which is this, and open it on our editor. Wonderful. So now, if you have ever worked with Node applications, there are packages and something called Node modules involved in the process. You can see them here in the package.json file. There are these things called dependencies, which are the packages that are needed for your application to work properly. So we have this one package.json file, which basically stores all of this information, and we don't have these packages installed yet. So the first thing that you really need to do is install those packages. Okay, so we do npm install. Now npm means Node Package Manager, which is like self-explanatory. Npm is the tool through which we know which packages to install and you know what to do. So we do npm install and wait for all of these wonderful dependencies to get downloaded. While this is getting downloaded, let's go back to our guide and see what's our next step. So for this application, for authentication purposes, we have not created our own authentication. That is because when you store username, passwords, all of this stuff can get like quite tricky. And the implementation that you might build could be like very flaky. So it's always good to rely on a third-party authentication system, because in that way you're not personally storing any of the sensitive information, and you know that the authentication is going to be more robust. So what we've used here is the GitHub OAuth app. So obviously this makes the workflow a little bit longer, but it obviously like ensures there's more set, like perfectly as we'll put it. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. Thank you so much. All right. So let's go to GitHub OAuth apps and try to create our own OAuth app. You will be surprised at how simple this is. Like, really. So you just go to the link there, you create a new OAuth app. I say MLH Starter Pack. Now, a couple of things to note here, which will be of importance. Since we are developing on a local environment right now, our homepage URL would look something like HTTP localhost 5000. But if you were using this on like a production server, this URL would look quite different. It would be something like, I don't know, HTTPS mydomain.com. So that would be our homepage. Application description, this is a demo app for the MLH Mart challenges. And the callback URL, which basically means that, okay, so let's talk a bit more about how the GitHub OAuth works before we come to the authorization callback URL. So how this works is that whenever, so you'll be on the home page and there's suppose a route through which we're sending a request to GitHub OAuth, which then transfers the control to GitHub. It shows you that GitHub page, like authorize the third-party application. You do the authorization on GitHub's end, and then GitHub comes back and tells you that it comes back to this callback URL page, and it tells you that, okay, this has been done. And then from the callback URL page, you sort of ask GitHub to give you this access token to make sure that the user is currently authorized. So once you successfully get an access token, you're able to verify everything. You know that the user is authorized, and you can continue with the user as like an authorized user. I use the word authorized way too much there, but I hope you get what I'm trying to say. So let's come back to the application and the way this has been built. The callback URL here would look something like this. We will take a deeper look into this route later on, but for now we can just copy this, copy it from here and post it here. This here says HTTPS, but I'm not sure if this would work. So we will check this once we get there. But for now, let's just trust the documentation which says HTTPS. We click on register application, and there we go. Oh, I'm get linked to the original GitHub page. Yes, sure, it is right here. So okay, wow, and you're good to go. All right. Anybody who's looking for a link to the GitHub repository, you can check it out in the links. Sorry, you can check it out in the comments. I shared the link there. All right, wonderful. So let's get back. Now we have now we have our OAuth application ready. You have our client ID and we have the client secret, which we'll have to generate, but I'll get there in a while. All right. So now by this time, our packages should have been installed. You can see here that, okay. Which more challenges, and all right. Let's check if we have all the node modules with us. Okay. All right. It says added 240 packages, so this should work. Next step that we have here is adding an environment variables file. So what we will do is right here, we will create a new file called .env, and we will copy this sample that has been provided to us and put it here. So what the database URL consists of, it would be a sort of Postgres database link, which would look something like PostgreSQL : / localhost something / and the name of the database. So I'm not going to put that here because right now we are not setting up the database. I will only be updating the client ID and the client secret. So in the OAuth application right here, you can find the client ID, just copy it and select this and paste it. You have the client ID there. Then you click on this button called generate a new client secret, from where you will get your secret key, client secret, and you can paste that right here too. I will do that, but off stream. All right. So I hope you all are also following along and copying your client secrets at this time. Okay. So my secret is good to go. What you can see now is basically you see that the secret is added, it gets basically hashed, and you have your OAuth app. So we're going to let that be there for a while. And now we know that our server is ready. This is how simple it was. We just need to do npm start, which will start our server, just like the name suggests. Okay, that page. A couple of things here and there, but let's do npm start and see what we get. Okay, so we know that the server has started on port 5000, which is what we also provided back there. So we do localhost 5000 and we can see this page getting rendered. This was all given to us by default. So before we start making changes here, let's try to first understand what's happening and how can we even see this page to begin with. There's also a lot of guides over here that you can try to follow. Along with like what I'm saying, the text can also help quite a lot. Before we dive into the code, a couple of frameworks that are being used here are Express, Sequelize, Bootstrap 4, and Handlebars. What's of more importance to us right now is Express, because it's a popular Node.js framework that allows you to very easily build these backend applications. Okay, Adam's asking where do we put the secret. So Adam, basically in the root. Let's come back here. See, when you have cloned the application, you have everything here. In the root, you can just create this file called .env, and then let me create another file because I've already copied my secrets there. Okay, you create a .env file, and then in the documentation here, you can see a sample file. You could just type this by hand also, but there we go. So now there's something called GitHub client secret. So you just go there and you replace this with the client secret, whatever that might be. And you should be good to go. Okay. So where were we? We were talking about everything that's in here. Yeah. So the main thing that we really want to focus on is on Express. It's like a very, very, very lightweighted framework for Node.js. There aren't a lot of packages involved with it. It's very simple and gives you like this easy way to build your backend servers using Node.js. So you can see the most important thing here would be the way Express allows you to do routing. You have all of this stuff that we will see more in action to give everybody a better understanding of Express. Then there is Sequelize. Sequelize is a promise-based ORM, which basically supports Postgres, MySQL, SQLite. These are all SQL databases. Sorry, Adam, I didn't get your question. How did I run what? If you mean the OAuth application, oh, run the whole thing. I hope you mean the. Okay, let's go back a little bit. Maybe I've been rushing it. So let's come back here. to run this application, you first need to make sure that you have installed all the packages that will be required. So for that, you run this command called npm install. This makes sure that all the packages that are mentioned in the package.json file, they get installed. And then you run this command called npm start, which makes sure that you can basically run your environment. So when you do npm start, you get something like this. It runs this command called node.js. Oh, this would be interesting to see. In package.json, we specify a few scripts. So start is basically a way to say node-mon app slash index.js. It's telling npm that whenever you get the keyword start, you can do this. I could even replace start with run and then do npm run, and it would do the same thing. So technically, in a way, scripts are defined by you as a developer and not by Node.js particularly. So nice to know that it works. Great, yay! I hope all of your progress is going good too. Adam seems to be doing good. So we have express, we have roots, we have sequelize. Now sequelize is an ORM. So what it allows you to do is basically databases require a lot of queries, but sequelize kind of takes that away from you. So that can be a good thing in a way such that you can treat your database in a more object-oriented way. So, oh my god. Isn't that always the worst thing to happen? Everybody, I've been there so many times. Like let's not go there. So what it allows you to do is treat your database as basically send requests in the form in like a more object oriented programming way. So in the way that you can treat your tables as classes and then you can add objects to it. So that is what sequelize does. We don't need to run this command because it's important to understand that in our dependencies we already have sequelize. So when we do npm start, when we do npm install, it already installs this dependency called sequelize for us, which means we don't have to run this command anymore. There's a lot more documentation that you can read, but I think going through the code is going to help us quite a bit. Then comes the more UI related stuff, which is Bootstrap. I hope all of you have heard of it. It basically makes your web pages more pretty without you having to write a lot of code. There are examples you can copy from school stuff. So yeah, handlebars. What is handlebars and why are we using it? So usually when you build a server, you also attach like a front end application to it, and then you make sure that the front end application is making these calls to the server. What you can also do in a Node.js application is that you can have templates, which are here. They basically store how pages need to be rendered. So they can the Node.js application here, it can make render calls and it can make sure that there's stuff being displayed here. So the templating engine that we are using in this tutorial is handlebars. It allows for like very minimal templating, so it's cool stuff. All right, now that we have a good understanding of everything that is being used here, let us think about how to navigate the code base and what to do next. Okay, so for me, I always think like the best way is to just like start looking at the folder, see what sort of code they have. The most important folder for us here is this app folder, which consists like the most important stuff. So in the app folder, there's this file called index.js, which initializes the server for us. So you can see we have, so also this line kind of expresses the way in which you import packages. It's quite common in JavaScript to do it this way. And especially, okay, if you're a React developer, you would notice that there is a difference in the way you sort of import packages in React versus in Node. This format is more widely followed in Node.js. So yeah, we have Express, we have sessions, handlebars. We talked for templating, compression to make sure that the requests that are there, you can compress them more. Logger is there to help us get better error messages so that we sort of know what's going wrong. Then there are these three things, but which are sort of defined by us. Config, it's defined over here. So this index.js is actually what is being used to initialize config here. Then you have paths, which again config has paths, and then you have roots. So let's go check our config directory. There it'll be, so what config is helping you load into the server are the environment variables. We're taking the .env file and we're getting the port, what's the environment that we're in, the secret key, the client ID, and the client secret. After we're done with that, there are a couple of paths. This is basically helping us load all the static assets that we have. We will discuss static assets in a moment. The last thing that is written here are the roots, which is basically this file. And this whole structure, we sort of have to talk about it, especially, yeah. So, okay, just give me one second. So in roots, we need to understand basically how they're working, because that is when we will be able to understand how controllers, models, services are coming together and working here. Yes, thank you so much, Holy Script. React has ES6 imports. Adam, I have no idea why handlebars is a different color. I actually heard about handlebars a week ago because I don't usually use templates. I find it easier to just start a React application and then, combine the two together. But in today's session, to keep it shorter, we will be making use of the templates that we have. And basically, they're easier to use for anybody who just knows basic HTML, so they don't have to go through the whole JavaScript route. Okay, so the roots that we have here are basically your root, auth, and tutorial. And we have specified controllers that are to be used for those particular roots. So let's look at these more important folders that we have here. Controllers is basically storing all the logic, the business logic, and the things that get executed once you enter a particular root. Models is all the model definitions that you have for your database. Services is all the third-party stuff that we're using, all the other services that we're making use of, if I have to be repetitive. And static is all the static assets that we have. This means your CSS files, your images, your favicon icons, blah, blah, blah. And templates, last of all, has all the views. So if you see, we're following the MVC way of working, which is like model view controller. We're trying to separate the view from the business logic and so on. So that is all the cool stuff. Let us now look at what else is happening inside these different folders and how we can make sense of them. So like we said that the controllers have all the business logic and we're making use of OAuth. So for that purposes, it might also be important to look at this GitHub service that we've created. It's basically, we have a GitHub class and we're getting the client ID, the client secret, and the access token from our backend calls. So in the configuration, when it gets loaded, it will be passed to the GitHub object once it's called. There are a couple of functions here, which is the authorization URL, the get token, then you have the normal get root, there's get user from token, and so on. These will be more clear and more useful to us once we're in the controllers to understand where they're being called and how they're being called. I'm giving this more bird's eye view of the whole code so that once you are trying to edit this yourself, you sort of know what lies where, and it's easier for you to work with it. So auth.js here is calling models, config, and GitHub. That's the service that we just saw. And we have obviously the router. This is the express router, which lets you go to different routes. One very common and important. So here, when we have router, we can define what sort of route or request does it have to be. Right now you see all these requests are get, but if you wanted to make a post request, it would just look like router.post or router.put or router.delete. That is just how you specify like different types of requests. So here we have a get request for logout. So okay, one more thing that I really want all of you to like notice here is that even though this root here says /logout, but if you noticed in routes.js, we specified something like this, which meant like for /auth, we're using controllers.auth. So now when we are inside auth.js, this root is actually going to render itself as like localhost 5000 /auth/logout. I mean, I know it's very obvious stuff, but I'm putting it out there just in case like anybody gets confused about it. So yeah, we have logout here, which basically destroys the session and redirects you back to the home page. This is a very important route for us because this is login/GitHub, which basically redirects the user to the GitHub page to make sure that they add our application as their third-party authentication. So here we're creating this object of GitHub and we're giving it all this information. So client ID, you would notice here, we're only giving it the client ID and the client secret and not the access key. That is because we don't have, not the access token. That is because we don't have an access token yet. Access token is something we will ask from GitHub later on once the user has authenticated our application on GitHub. We'll ask for the access token and then we will ask GitHub to verify if this access token is actually like logged in or not. So I know it's getting all jumbled up, but I'm pretty sure quite soon this will all start making sense. So right now we give it the client ID and the client secret, and then we want GitHub to redirect us to the authorization URL, and we have provided here public repo. So let's go to the GitHub service and see what that means. Here you have authorization URL, which basically we want GitHub to redirect us to an authorized URL, which is here, github.com login/authorize, then your client ID, your client secret, and the scope. So the scope by default is nothing, but we have provided GitHub with a scope, which is public repo. We only want the scope. Like we do not want to access any private repos. So you might want to like define that so that users more easily accept your application, as well as like you don't end up getting any secret information about anybody else that you don't even need. So that is basically how the login is supposed to work. Then we have this route called callback/GitHub. Now if we go back here, you would notice that we had to give a callback URL to GitHub OAuth apps, and this right here is it. So this is what happens once the user is done on the GitHub website and wants to come back. So this is the route that they come to, and we check here that if the query code does not exist, we render a 500 page. If not, then we basically go about 500. So basically this 500 is an error page that we have here. Adam is saying that the callback doesn't work. All right. We will come and debug that. There seems to be something wrong with the code then if the callback doesn't work. So it'll be fun to like debug that here. Okay, so you have cons GitHub, new GitHub, again, like I said. And now we try to get the access token from GitHub. We give them the query code that we got. And if there is no access token, you again get like a 404 error. And if there wasn't, then we try to find the user. Here, you will see that we are making use of the database, which is where it will get important to set up a database URL. So let's look at what this line says. It says models.user find or create from token, access token. So as the name suggests, it takes the access token, it tries to either find it, and if the token does not exist, then it creates a new token for us. So let's go to the models and actually take a look at this one, and we would have covered a lot of stuff in that duration. Okay, so this is basically a function created by us, which says that we get user from token. We've given the access token, and GitHub has this function which allows, actually GitHub doesn't have this function. The GitHub service that we have created, it has this function called get user from token, and we send this request to GitHub, where your API URL is given here, api.github.com/user, and then in the config we give it the parameters, which is the access token. Now we're giving all of this information to GitHub, and we sort of expect a whole user object in return. So this is what it does. We are using the ORM sequelize for this very reason, so that we can, like, instead of writing the queries of like insert this into this table with all the values, we can more easily give it this sort of object. So we say either find this user or create a new one, like I said, and here you've given where username is the data login, and then you have several defaults, blah blah blah, and it returns the instance. So this is sort of how the whole authentication is working. Once you get the user, you should be redirected back to the home page. Now let us check if this flow is working, though technically this one would not work. So let's try and like commenting this out for a while. Let's go to our app and let's say login with GitHub. Now I say authorize this, secure connection failed, and yes, this is what I was talking about back when I said that this kind of looks wrong. If you come back here, you see that this is HTTPS, but since we're on a local development environment and there isn't really a secure certificate that we have, so this actually needs to be HTTP. If we do that and we update our application, we should be expecting it to work better now. Okay, let's go back here. We do login with GitHub. The page you're looking for, it does not exist, and it's sending us back to home. Now this problem is happening because we already logged in, we already have the code in our session, and well, yeah, things are not looking good there. I'll just open like a private screen and we can open this here. Oh my god, I won't be able to log into GitHub from here. Two-factor authentications. All right, let me just try to clear out some of the stuff. I will do that off stream, and let me know if any of you are able to make your callbacks work. The problem is definitely the HTTPS. It shouldn't be HTTPS. I will just clear out my sessions and okay. Data delete. There seems to be none of this. Console. Okay. Okay, let me come back on stream and let's try to figure this out together. Um, I can't even like close my browser right now. Else it would stop the stream technically. Okay, we will get to the root of this. So what is happening currently is that is because yeah. So it sort of shows this page even when it shouldn't right now because we have the code right here. So what we need to check is, what's happening and why it is rendering a 500 query. So let me just use the loggers in here. I'll just use the basic console log and let us try it. Okay. Definitely not expecting. What's happening with the network? Everything looks good with the network. There is a 200 status, which is why the 500 error right here does not really make a lot of sense. If we go back to our code, we can see that 500 should be rendered when there is like a query code. Sorry, when there is no query code. What is happening here is maybe it's the 404 error and not the 500. Yes. Templates and the 404 error is this is in the page you're looking for. Yeah. So this error comes when we do not have an access token. This means that when I have a code now and I send this to GitHub, and GitHub is saying that basically this user has not been authorized. That is when you get this 404 error and it doesn't really add any other access token for us, which technically means that GitHub did not work properly. This could be due to various reasons because we have changed the OAuth callback URL here, but that seemed to have updated itself. My understanding is that the GitHub user did not get authorized properly because last time when it was trying to get authorized, there was the callback error. So let us see how we can debug this. GitHub auth callback code not authorized. Okay. This does not seem to be opening. No. Let's check from the GitHub docs if we've done everything properly, and then we can. Also, let's see if GitHub actually gives us any sort of errors. Get token. Now, what this does is it sets the header and then it gives these parameters, and it posts this information to GitHub. Okay, so we are here. Yeah, login or it's like anything we can basically put anything here, and we have gone with /login/GitHub. You need the client ID, which is required, and we're giving GitHub that. So authorization URL, We're giving it the client ID and even the client secret. Users are redirected back to your site. Okay. So the temporary code actually expires in 10 minutes, and I'm not sure like how long it has been since our. I haven't changed anything yet. I was just sorry. Adam, I didn't really change anything. I'm trying to like understand what's causing the error. What kind of feel right now is that the code could have expired since the code that it gives you only lasts for like 10 minutes. But I am not sure if it did reset itself. Yes, this was a new code and this is still not working. This has been interesting with this GitHub Enterprise server. Yes. Okay, the access token. All right, in this, use the access token to access the API. I think we're doing all of this just fine. What is baffling to me here is, yeah, it's basically not in a logged in state, it's not in a logged out state, it's somewhere in between. Auth, transfers this place. Let me see if we can get something here. Access token, and where are we at? So the access token comes out undefined. Okay. Also, are we getting the right query code? Yes, it is. So we know that the query code is correct. It opens this new GitHub object and then it tries to get the token. So what it is essentially means is that yes, the user has not been authorized properly. So what I can do is I can go to my GitHub. I can see all my auth settings. Okay. Now let's try to look our the OAuth apps that okay. We want to see the ones that we have. Check third party application. GitHub cannot never really remember where stuff lies in. Your profile settings, third party access. Have I just gone like okay? This is I see. Okay. No, we are not that. Organizations and even here I can't really find. This is proven to be it won't load anything anymore, Adam. I think that's a good sign. Like, does it go back to the home page? Sorry, yes, Adam. Can you tell us like if it's still so what's the route where your No, it just ticks on page loading, not on home page as it should be. What's the URL of the page that you're at? I am. Also, does anybody on stream know how do I access the third party apps that I have given access to from my GitHub profile? Seem to have completely forgotten where that exists. Should be something like third party access, but just is not here. um, Security notifications, packages wouldn't be there. Organizations is the one that I'm in. Applications, authorized OAuth apps, and I just added this one called MLH Starter Pack. Work. And yes, now let me try again. Okay, so you're on localhost 5000, which is a good thing, which at least means that you're in the right place. The reason why it might be still showing the loading sign and no data is because did you like me also comment out your this line basically where we're accessing the database? If you did, then there are going to be problems there. So I click on login with GitHub and I am hoping. Wow, this would still not work for me. Adam, what did you do to make yours work? So let's think of more stuff. Wow, yes. It is. Yes. I don't know what these emojis are, but I think they convey like my state of mind right now. Let's try to think of what else has gone wrong with our OAuth for it to not work. OAuth can be really notorious so many times. The thing that I have here, all of this seems to be correct. Yet the access token, yeah, this here, this should be working. So if you revoked your access, which is also something that I did, and then you gave it back, it still gives the error 404, which is basically the same as me, but after it shows. So, Adam, what's happening on my screen is that happening on yours too. Because I did the same thing, and well, yeah, that is happening. So, in the meanwhile, while we're figuring out OAuth, which is getting quite frustrating, let's talk a little bit about how this is working right now, like the page and everything of that sort. So, if you want to build like basic stuff without authentication, you can at least like get something working. So on the tutorials thing, you have these routes here, and there's this one get route called requesting, which gets called when you click on requesting data. That is when it goes to localhost 5000 slash tutorial slash requesting. Now what here we do is that we say that if basically there is no access token, then we render this page tutorial slash index. And if there is access token, we render the page tutorial index, but also give it certain data. So right now you can see that we do not have an access token. So what we can see is this page here. So let's go and look at how this rendering is working. That is basically happening via the templates and tutorial index.html. So it's basically this HTML page that's working. And these blocks that you can see here are actually this is basically the way we're putting like the variables that we have, like the data that we have, into here. So how this works is it's not really nothing is happening in this case when we do not have an access token. But in this case, we're also providing it with like data. So there are three variables: tutorial 1, tutorial 2, and query. And what is happening here is that it's saying if tutorial 1 exists, then for each tutorial 1 is item, you want to show the repo item is equal to item. Similarly, we check if session user exists, then what should happen, and all of this stuff. So it's this one index.html file which is getting loaded differently if based on like whether you're logged in there or you're not. So right now here you can see we're getting this message which says that this basically requires you to be logged in, which is what we've been trying to do, but that hasn't been working. Really wonder why. We will get back there, but just want to like cover more stuff so that you don't feel like stuck here. Yes, okay. So that was like the tutorial page. We also have the home page, which is just rendering. So this is how the templating engine is working. We're sending a response of res.render, and that basically displays stuff on your web browser. Okay. And so if we were not rendering stuff and we were just sending data, you would do something like res.send, and here you would send your JSON objects or whatever format you want to send your data in. Okay. So we talked about the models. Okay. Now let us get back to our GitHub problem and really try to work this out. That would be an achievement for today. So when we try to do login with GitHub, it goes back to this. Let me just wait. I have revoked access, right? Let me go back, refresh. There's something, okay. Revoke. So now when we go back here, obviously this will try to load itself. Localhost this. And let me like do this very dumb thing where you always try to like restart stuff, but let's try to do that. Let's actually close our server and do npm start again. I know it's not going to make a difference, but restarting and restarting the service has mostly always worked. And let's close this browser, close all the tabs, and go back here. We go to localhost 5000, we do login with GitHub. Everything so far looks fine. When this public repository is basically what we sent here. Where did it go? Authorization URL, the scope. So you can see the scope here, and you can change the scope as well. Precisely summed up. And we are back to the same error, which definitely means that turning something on and off does not always work. What could also be the case is that something is really wrong with our OAuth app. So let us try to take a look there. So on this application, you have one user, you have a client ID, you have a secret key, and the home page is localhost 5000, while the callback URL is auth/callback/GitHub. Yes, and yes. So GitHub, what does it? It basically gives us an undefined access token, is what is happening right now, which means that this is not working. If this is a promise problem, and the reason why this is not working is because the promise is not getting resolved properly, then I'm going to be really angry. But the await is placed properly. I don't see any reason why this should not be returning data. So we have constant. Okay, let's just try this. Go access token GitHub auth undefined. Okay, seems to be an issue. Let's hope that they just did not have none of. Have you created a service account for your project? No, this is actions on Google, not what we're looking for. Getting an error with hmm. This is for yet another thing. GitHub. Uh, wait. Hmm. What are these different? But it seems to be a common issue across many third-party authentications. Consent in the prompt. Do not know what they mean by that. Yeah, no. Again, this is more for Google. It's interesting how Kirakoth token undefined. Okay, something from OctoKit. Finally. Nope. Refresh token, undefined token. It's so interesting that of this like 2 hour stream, 1 hour would be dedicated solely to debugging this issue. Cannot read property. No, 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 no. All right. Let's see then. Is our GitHub object working fine? Should be. It's very stupid to check that. But so let's check get token. What get token does is it gives these params. We are giving it the request query code. We give it the code. We give it the client ID and the client secret. What could also be going wrong is that the client secret and the client ID might not be working, and that could also be like very seriously an issue. So I'm going to try to generate a new client secret and see if that makes any difference. So I will go off stream for that duration. Okay. Yes, I'm also glad that I have some support here so that I'm not doing this alone on stream. Okay, so I think maybe I know what the error was on my end. I hope this works though. Okay, let me first see what this gives me back. Hmm. Nope. No luck so far. Okay, wait, no, maybe there is luck. Try it. I will share my screen in just a minute. Okay. All right. That error is gone. Like on my part, it was like a very stupid error. I do not know what it was on your part. I do. Let me get back on stream. So I'm now on this stage where it's just loading. So we know why that is happening. Is anybody else also on this stage and was wondering why this is happening? And does anybody have an answer for why this was happening? Mm, okay, so first I'll talk about like what was the error on my part. I feel so stupid that this happened on live stream. Anyway, so the problem was in my environment variables, and what was going wrong was basically there was just one inverted comma instead of two. So I feel very ashamed admitting this on a live stream, but that was one of the problems that I was facing. And apart from that, it seems to be working fine. So we know that the authentication is working. Why it's still loading and why there's like nothing on the screen, like nothing has changed on the screen, is because we can see that it's trying to find a user which we have not given it yet. That is because I was talking about not having a database set up here, and we need to uncomment this. Yet, like, since I don't have a database URL set up, this most probably will not work. Adam, you were mentioning that you fixed the problem that you had before. Do you still have any problem left? So, how you get a database is a very interesting question. I've actually broken my system and I was trying to fix it for the past 3 hours, but still I cannot get the database to work. But you all can, because I'm on an Ubuntu and have officially like broken up my Ubuntu installation. What you need to do is you need to get the PostgreSQL for your computer. So it's quite simple to get it for Mac OS, especially because they have a Postgres app. So if you're on the Mac OS, you can just go there and you can download the installer and you can get the Postgres database. So once you have the database, you can run the service and create a new database there. So it will then give you a database URL, which would look something like this, and then localhost some port number. This will not be the port slash your database name. Oh, that's wonderful. If you have it installed already, so you can just start the database server, get the database URL, and put this in your .environment file. So the first thing that needs to be here is the database URL. So inside of here, you can just copy it, whatever your. So okay, so what you need to do to create a database? Let's go there. You can also create a database using the CLI, and I'm pretty sure using the app that can be done as well. But we can look at the CLI method and see how that will be done. We can get started and create a database. So how you create a database is very sort of simple. It's just like one line which says create DB, and you can then give it the name of your database. All of this is up to you. Yeah. So yeah, you can just do that. And obviously if you find that createDB does not exist in your terminal, there are ways to basically fix that problem. I can share this PostgreSQL link with all of you so that wow, okay. Yes. What directory do I do my DB? So the thing is, createDB would essentially create this database in like the Postgres service that exists in your system. So you don't really have to worry about where you're putting it. Like you can just run like on your root. You can run. No. That's not important. So the app has nothing to do with the database because we will essentially just be providing. Sorry, we will essentially be providing a database URL over here, and our configuration files will take care that we have the right URL to work from. So let me show the configurations and how they look. So these are sort of the configurations that exist right now. You can change it to basically match your own. Right now, it says that your database is hosted on like it's on localhost, it's on port for 5432, and it's using Postgres. The thing is, since our library, the ORM that we're using, it supports Postgres, it supports SQLite, and it supports MySQL, so you can use whatever you want to do. How do you check what port that is on? Okay, so technically, actually by default, it's usually always this port only. You can try to like run your database, and you should get. Wait. When you try to run your database, it should allow you to like it should itself give you a link which would tell you what port it is on. I am sorry for not being able to give like more concrete answers at this moment, since Postgres just like broke on my system. And yes, so on Linux it's like a whole other story. And let me actually show how it is so irritating right now. So actually I've tried all of their methods, and if I try to run any of these things, it just would not. Mm. Oh my god, are they kidding me? Seems like this live stream is lucky for me after all. This might work. I don't know. Let's see. In the meanwhile, all of you, you can go to the Postgres website and make sure that you have installed the right one for your system. If you're on Mac, you can just get their installer. If you're on Windows, it should also be fairly simple to install it with the installer. Why am I installing this? Yeah. So just make sure you have this so that you can ensure that uh, the other parts of the application, which rely on having a database and storing our user information, actually work. So far, we have been able to make OAuth work, and we've understood the structure in the way we can structure our Node.js applications to have this sort of model view controller architecture, and just organize them like properly. Let's see. Yeah. Wow. I will be more than delighted if Postgres starts working somehow. Okay, let's try to find port. We can always, I love how we can always search answer. See, like I told you, the default for Postgres is 5432, so that is where you should technically find it. Okay. If anybody has any other questions or doubts so far in what was happening? So there, sorry, I also forgot to mention there is a user guide with this repo, which talks mostly about a lot of stuff that we have covered so far. There was the OAuth, there's the fetching of data, the static files, this. So this is what your database would sort of look like. So we will have to make sure that we've installed Postgres first, and then that it's running locally. And then we replace the URL that we have with our Postgres database URL. Then, yeah. This should, after we're done with the Postgres step, we will have like a very good foundation of our Node.js application already set up. The default address thing is here. I can also drop it in the comments. This is nice. This is what. Yeah. But this would be the case only if the name of your database is also MLH Hackathon Node.js Starter. Because right now you see this to be the case because, well, yeah, that is what the person. Right. Okay. So we had a folder called config, and that had this file called databases.json. So this is specifying two databases. If you look at it, it's a development database and a test database. Development database basically the one that you're using while developing, and tests basically what you're using while testing. Because we use a lot of mock data and things like that for testing. So the database here, you can replace that with the name of your database, here your host, your port, and the dialect. If you decide to switch from Postgres to, like, let's say SQLite, then you can just replace that here with SQLite. And when we are using it in production, then this is the way to go. So right now, if we had Postgres set up normally, and even if like we did not put our environment variable here, it would still work because technically right now we're sort of in this development mode and we don't need to use the environment variable. In production, it helps us in a way such that your database could be somewhere else. Let's say you are using, I don't know, you're using one of the databases on Amazon and on Amazon Web Services, and you want to put that in your application that is deployed in Heroku. You can give it the database URL, and it will fetch all of the data from that particular URL. So coming here to the models to try to understand what it is like. This is basically SQLize initialization, where we are giving it the config.use environment variable, which is the database URL. So if a database URL does not exist, then we take the config file and we take the database, the username, password, config, everything. And this is basically reading all of the data, going through all of that. And user.js is where the main stuff is happening. Yes, Adam, it should be port 5432 if you have not changed it. So, sorry, what doesn't work properly right now? The database or the application? If the application is still not working properly, it could be because your database is not open right now. So what we can try to do at this moment is make sure that once you, okay, give me a second. Let's get off stream and let's come here. Okay. One thing that we really do want to ensure is that this URL actually works for you as well. So to make sure that the URL works or not, you can just copy this and you can paste this here. So I know that this, sorry. So I know this doesn't work for me because I haven't started my Postgres server. And technically this should, no, this wouldn't work. Speech marks in env. Okay, so technically the environment file works both ways. If you do have the quotes, make sure that you're using the same quotes in both ways, and there is like a quote next to both of the things. But you can remove the quotes also and it still works. So like here in this case, you don't need the quotes, you can remove them. All right, so you have the database set up, you have the authentication set up. So what would come next is bringing those things together and making changes to your app here. So what you would want to see is that once you're logged in and you have your database set up, you should be able to see your start repositories and things like that here. I do want to talk a bit about how this is working, though I think I've already mentioned it. Is that we are in the tutorials requesting place. Yes. So what we're doing is, after we're checking that there is an access token, uh, we're making a request to GitHub. So we're making use of the GitHub API, and we're doing a GET request, which basically does a /user/start. So we can come and go and see how this works. So this takes the root URL and it puts it with the API URL. It takes the access token. You can see that the access token is already given to the GitHub object that we're initializing right now. So the param access token becomes that particular object's access token, and then we wait for the response while we're sending this request to the GitHub API. So here our server is making a call to the GitHub API, and we're trying to get all the start repos of the users. So this GET request can basically be used to get anything from the GitHub API, because the root URL here is like, it's a variable. So here we have put user/start, and we can put like a lot of other things as well. Search repositories, blah, blah, blah. So a couple of things that can happen. Yeah. So Adam, the reason you're sort of stuck in this line is because the database is still not in place properly. Okay, let us get back there. We have, let me check if mine is ready. So no, mine sort of gets stuck at this moment every time, because yeah, well, there's something wrong, very wrong with this. Okay. Okay, so what we need right now is, so we have a database. You first have to make sure that you have a database, and then once you have your database, you also need a table. So the models here, they sort of represent the tables that you would have in a SQL database. So this user is one of those tables. So what you would actually want to do is like create a table and give it these fields: username, avatar URL, and GitHub ID. You give it these things, and then Sequelize is able to find the thing that it wants to find. So let's come back to where Sequelize actually needs stuff, which is in your auth.js. Okay, so in auth.js, it's going to user, and then it's trying to find or create from token, right? And if we go to the models here, Sequelize is basically, it's entering into the database, then it's sort of reading for each file, and it's trying to import all of that, and then we come to user.js, where basically it's defining a user model so that it can be used by it later on. So yeah, what would need, yeah. Okay, so to figure out how to create tables, again, it should be very easily available over here. Let's come and help Adam, since okay, so getting started and create table. Table PostgreSQL. So if you're able to like enter this Postgres environment, you could also directly start writing queries. But if not, then there are obviously like more. There should be more CLIs to do that. But this is genuinely always like the easiest way to do this stuff. Is once you get into Postgres, you yeah you do like Postgres, and then you enter. You basically enter an environment that looks something like this. Okay, yes, my MySQL is messed up. You basically sort of enter an environment which lets you, sorry, you sort of enter the Postgres or MySQL environment inside of your terminal, and from there you can access all of the, sorry, you can implement all of these queries directly. So you can create a table and you can give it all the column names, the constraints, and everything. Let's see an example of that create table. It's basically here. It'll look something like this. So what we want to create, that query would look like, okay, so it would look like create table user. Let's check. Yeah, it's user, and then we want to, oh, I cannot type this here. Why am I trying to type this here? Okay, so the query sort of needs to look like create table user, and then inside of it you are basically putting things like username, GitHub ID, avatar URL. So we just give it as it is, like username, and we say that this is username is text and that this is not null, and basically all of these things, which is how we will be defining our table, and we make sure that our Postgres database has that stuff. So this is how that query can be implemented. All right, so I hope you were able to get the basics of creating an application on Node.js. I understand it's been quite frustrating because of setting up a database, but I hope it was less. I hope the database setting up stuff was less stressful for you. Um, what we basically want to do is ensure that we've installed Postgres properly, that we're running it, we've created a database, the tables, and such that we can then run our SQLizer on it. Yes, I guess that would be all from my end. So, okay, let's just put it here. You got this error in line 1. Like, what does that mean? Was it a multi-line query and there was an error exactly here? Also, are you trying to like access this inside the Postgres terminal, basically? That is where you can, that is the only place where you can implement queries and nowhere else, or like the GUI that you would get on this link, which is 5246. No. Wait, where is the, yeah. So you can also try going to localhost 5432, this port, and you should be able to like access your Postgres in like a more graphical way, like a GUI of Postgres. Yes, would be happy to like help you out in your problems offline, Adam, and hopefully get mine solved too. Anyway, I hope that you all learned at least like the basics of Node.js and how to get something like get work done in it. It has been a good time trying to like just figure out all the bugs that I've found. You need the quotes in the values, not really in the table name. Not sure, like not sure why that went wrong. Usually this does work. Like uh, quote marks are like more optional when it comes to SQL queries. But it could be an environment issue. It's great that you found the error, Adam. So yeah, I hope that you all had fun in this live stream, and I would be really happy to see whatever Node.js projects you come up with, even if it's just the Hackathon Starter project. Please do remember to like put it on dev post. I am putting the link up again, mlhmarchallenges.devpost.com. Please put up your projects here so that we can show you love and support and encourage you and cheer you on in your Node.js journey. It's obviously like not possible to like finish a whole project in 1.5 hours, but I hope that you do take the time to make use of our starter guide and get started with the project. With all of that said, it was really nice to be here on this stream with such a supportive audience who's always there to like help out and interact. Always great to be a part of the community. So bye bye and hope you all have a nice day ahead.